Good afternoon, everyone. It is terrific to be here. I am very honored to be asked to participate today, and that the mayor is comfortable yielding some time and letting me interview her. So I'm very excited to get down and begin that program. So as many of you know, Mayor Obringer was elected to the City Council in November of 2016. She served as vice mayor in 2018. Mayor Obringer previously served on the city's Design Review Commission and the Planning Commission. She has chaired Concord's July 4th Parade since 2016, and she founded Concord's annual Art and Wine and Beer Walk. Mayor Obringer holds an MBA from the Monterey Institute of International Studies, and she resides near downtown Concord with her husband, Justin. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mayor Carlyn Obringer.
And I want to thank you so much, Kristin, for the warm introduction. Thank you for your willingness to be here. And I'm excited to dive into the state of our city. But before I begin, I want to introduce the other members of the Concord City Council team who are here today. So again, we have Vice Mayor Tim McGallion. We have former mayor and current council member Laura Hoffmeister. We have former mayor and current council member Eddie Bierson. And we have our newest city council member, Dominic Aliano. And of course, my fellow council members and I couldn't do the important work serving the people of Concord without our City of Concord team of employees, led by City Manager Valerie Baroni. And if you are a member of the City of Concord City staff, could you please stand and be acknowledged? Please stand. Thank you all for being here today.
Oh, that's terrific. I'm so glad you did that. What a great group of people. So, over the last several years, both the City of Concord and the Concord Chamber have been focusing on economic development. And the city has seen some new developments, new retail, new restaurants. There's a lot of visible changes. As someone who lives downtown, how would you describe Concord's recent evolution as a city? And as a follow-up, what are your priorities as mayor to continue to support this evolution?
Well, that's a great question, Kristin. And I have lived near downtown Concord the entire time that my husband Justin and I have been here, and I've seen a lot of changes. And I think that what's happening is, thanks to partnerships with groups like the Chamber and Visit Concord, the outside world is finally learning what we've known all along, that Concord is a great place to live, work, raise a family, do business, retire, and of course visit. And all you have to do is go down to Todos Santos Plaza, say on a Thursday night actually, whenever we have music and market, and you see thousands of people enjoying local acts and the farmers market. And we're getting more and more people coming to the Art and Wine and Beer Walk, to Oktoberfest, to our Brew Fest, to the Taste of Concord, and people are really falling in love with Concord's living room. In fact, something that many of you might not know, I sometimes play the piano and organ for people's weddings. And there was a couple that I met recently, and the husband had proposed to the wife in Todos Santos Plaza. So it's a really special place, and I think that the outside world is finally learning that. Also, there is more and more buzz around housing development, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, most likely, but folks across the Bay Area are looking for an affordable place to live. And in downtown Concord, we're finally starting to get some of our projects out of the ground. The reconstruction of Renaissance Phase 2 is going very quickly after, unfortunately, the fire that happened last year. We also have the Grant, which is another market rate apartment complex that was recently approved, and we hope to see that come out of the ground soon. We have enclave townhomes near City Hall, and we have a few other projects that are under discussion. Our former redevelopment agency properties, the white picket fence that everybody's familiar with, as well as our property near the BART station. So I think as folks across the Bay Area are trying to find an affordable place to live that has a high quality of life, Concord is really a place that they're starting to turn to. And if you're a foodie or you're a craft beer aficionado, Concord is starting to have something for everyone, whether it's Puesto at the Veranda, Lima in Todos Santos Plaza, Los Rancheros Taqueria over in Concord's version of the Mission, which is the Monument community, or our many tap rooms, or Concord's newest wine bar, Residual Sugar. And getting to your follow-up question about economic development, you know, we're working very hard to foster our growing biomedical industry, and so we're thrilled that over the past year, Akesis and also Cirrus have not only expanded their physical footprint, but their workforce. And I see as a personal responsibility as mayor, it's very important, you know, when I go to other communities and say I see a restaurant or a coffee shop or some kind of concept like an escape room that I think we should have in Concord, I come back and talk to our economic development staff, ask them to do outreach. Also, we're working hard to try to foster the arts, and I'm thrilled we have the arts table representing performing and visual arts here with us today. So seeing how, for example, we can keep our theater in our downtown. And also, I've gone down to Silicon Valley twice since I've been on the city council, trying to get the attention and let Silicon Valley know that, you know, you don't have to have your employees and your companies relocate to Austin or Denver. All you have to do is just come to Concord. So these are things we're working on.
Great. That's a lot. It's terrific to have a mayor with such a grasp of so many different aspects of your work. So that's terrific. Okay, so full disclosure, I am a big fan of your chief of police. So how great is the Concord chief of police, right? I had the good fortune when I worked for Supervisor Mitchoff to get to know the chief and his dedication to the Family Justice Center. So you likely get this question a lot, but safety is such an important component of a thriving community. What has Concord done to ensure that residents and businesses feel safe besides have a terrific chief of police?
Well, thank you. We are thrilled that we have Chief Swanger here with us today, and I think I'm very proud that Concord's on the right track when it comes to public safety. And it's true, you know, that we do still hear from the community about car break-ins, thefts, petty crimes, but that's not an issue that's just a problem for Concord. You know, cities across California are faced with that issue because Proposition 47, which was passed in 2014, by the voters, basically turned some crimes that used to be felonies into misdemeanors. So it's more challenging to detain the repeat offenders. But with that said, I think that the police department's doing a fantastic job keeping violent crime down. The Family Justice Center is doing amazing work to address domestic violence and break that multi-generational cycle, which was an issue that we were facing here in our Concord community. Also, I think it's a testament to the community partnerships. I know we have Monument Crisis Center here today, and our police department is partnering on gang prevention programs. We have our school resource officers in our high schools, and that makes a really important difference as well. And we also have a new partnership that I'd like to share today. We have folks from the Levin, if you could just raise your hands and be acknowledged. The Levin program, they're going to be coming into one of our Monument community apartments on Virginia Lane. They're going to be joining the Concord community in March, and they run after school programs, tutoring, and other community building activities to really try to help transform communities and help provide additional educational support. So that is a partnership that, again, our police department found and is bringing to our community. And also in the spirit of transparency, our police department, just to share with everybody, they now are wearing body cams, and there are dashboard cams as well. So whenever you're talking with a police officer, do remember that you are on camera.
All right. We did have a few things planned then for questions for you, and now it's going to come out. No, I'm kidding.
No, but one other thing I wanted to say as well is, this is a really challenging time when I know that there are a lot of cities and jurisdictions that are struggling to attract police officers, and I'm proud that Concord, we have a phenomenal team, and they're helping to protect our city and keep our businesses safe and our residents, and that's something I'm really proud of that we have here.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. Contra Costa is so diverse. For people who know me, you probably hear me say this all the time. I talk about that we're a microcosm of California. We really, truly are. Concord is second largest and has such a rich history, in addition to the fact my family was living in Concord when I was born. But with that history comes both beautiful historical buildings and very old roads. What is the city doing to improve and maintain roads and its aging infrastructure?
Well, I love the Concord connection, and I will just say it doesn't matter where I go, there's always a Concord connection. So all roads lead back to Concord. And speaking of roads, first of all, I know that I'm talking to a group of business people here, and so I want to acknowledge that I personally understand that you're very concerned about the condition of the roads here, because whenever you have clients coming to town, or whenever, let's say, you are leasing office space and you have a new potential tenant that's coming, and they're driving into town and their first impression of Concord is the roads, well, sometimes that's a good impression, other times it's not. So I was very relieved, as I believe my colleagues on the city council were, that we were able to protect and preserve SB 1 funds on the November ballot. And just so you know, that's $2 million a year to do additional road work here in the city of Concord. And how we do it is we combine those SB 1 funds with our Measure Q dollars, our half-cent sales tax, and then we use those funds to leverage regional, statewide, and federal dollars. And so what we're trying to do is go for the best bang for our buck whenever we're doing road work. And even though we've been broken into districts, I want to reassure people that we're still using an algorithm and a scientific method to determine where road work gets done.
Oh, great.
So it's not, whoever's calling and screaming at their council member the loudest, So we're really trying to do this very scientifically and let people know. And I will share, though, this is going to start a larger conversation going forward, because whenever my colleagues and we were doing our budget planning, we were starting to talk about it last year, and we're going to get into that in just a few weeks. Again, I anticipated that, the largest amount of our unfunded liabilities was related to pensions and health care. But I was quite surprised whenever I realized that, over time, that's going to go away. That's going to take care of itself. But what's not going to go away unless we take some serious action is the deferred maintenance on our roads. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're going to have a conversation as a community, and inviting the business community to participate with us in this is, what are we going to do? Does this mean an extension of Measure Q? Does this mean an increase of Measure Q? Does this mean we need to do something that's a tax measure specifically focused on roads? What does that look like? So we're going to have that conversation, and the time for that conversation is now. Now, what I will say is, Concord's not the only city that's facing this. Some cities hide it better than others, but almost every city in California has this challenge. But before we move on to another topic, I do want to share something positive. So I'd like to pull up some slides related to Farm Bureau Road. Now, Farm Bureau Road, you see the before and the after. The before, if those of you might remember who have been in Concord a long time, Farm Bureau Road was a truck route up until not that long ago. And now it is a Safe Routes to School model street. So there's sidewalks, there's bike lanes, there are bioswales. And so our goal is for someday every street in Concord to look something like this. But we have a long way to go, and we look forward to having that conversation with you.
Oh, that's excellent. And just as a follow-up, because you did mention potentially an extension of Measure Q, for the audience, in case not everybody knows, when does that measure sunset?
It sunsets in 2025, but we need to start talking now.
Okay, great. And you did mention your 2 trips to Silicon Valley in terms of, potentially, if a company is facing relocation and being priced out of South Bay coming up here. I also hear you talk a lot about smart technology and sustainability, both those sort of tranches, and often those things go together. Can you talk about the city's efforts in both these areas and what that means for the community from your perspective?
Sure. So I was really pleased that my city council colleagues and I passed a smart city resolution in 2017. And that resolution was really to codify and to let folks know what the city was already trying to do around smart city innovation, not just at the former Concord Naval Weapons Station, because everybody thinks of that as the future of Concord, but also existing Concord. So for those who don't know, and I hope everybody in this room knows that we are home to Momentum Station, which is one of only a few Department of Transportation authorized driverless vehicle testing sites in the country. And we're hoping at some point to be able to spin that off so that we have more jobs created in Concord. Contra Costa County is an autonomous valley of sorts. But also, we're starting to be really attractive to companies that want to test robots. So in particular, delivery robots. So folks might have seen Starship or Marble Robotics with their robots. They shouldn't be speeding. They should be going at a reasonable pace up and down the streets of Concord, testing their delivery. But on a more pragmatic level, again, this is a room full of business people, and so you want to know, well, what about high-speed internet and broadband and all of this to help with my business? And so we also have a policy that anytime we're doing capital improvement programs that we're trying to install more fiber and conduit, because we know that if you want to be competitive, it doesn't matter what kind of business, whether you're a hospital, a school, or a true tech company, that you need high-speed internet and the fastest speed. So we're working on that. And then also traffic, I know, is a huge topic and concern. And so we're trying to partner with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority and piloting some new technology that will help with congestion. So those are some things that we're doing there. And then on the sustainability side of things, I was really pleased about the partnership between the city and, again, the chamber, and helping us with the outreach whenever we just recently banned styrofoam. So I think that
Music to my ears.
Yes, and that ordinance went into effect on January 1st. So if you're still using styrofoam, please stop. You know, we thought, Kristin, it's really important we have this international recycling crisis. And so it's key that Concord eliminates, you know, polystyrofoam from the waste stream. And so the chamber was really helpful in helping us to get out and educate small businesses about why we're making this change. And we did roll it out over a series of months, so it wasn't a shock. We're also working on our climate action plan, and the goal is to reduce our carbon emissions, which I know everyone is concerned about. And we're thrilled. We're going to be adding 5 more electric vehicle charging stations to our downtown parking garage. Oh, and again, I know this is a room full of business people, so it's not just good for the environment. I can tell you, so I am on my second Nissan Leaf, which is an electric vehicle, and I can tell you that whenever I'm looking at my charging app, because I gotta get a charge, you know, so I can get on to the next place, I find a community where there's an open EV charging point. I pull in, I charge up my vehicle, and I spend some dollars. So it's good for the environment, and it's good for business too. A win-win.
Well, and just on that point, this morning, the East Bay Leadership Council had a task force meeting, and the sustainability coordinator for the county was presenting, and she talked about how much she loves the charging station at the veranda.
Oh,
and how
wonderful.
She'll pull in, choose to have lunch there, so that, because she knows that she can charge up. So great
Excellent.
point, and I think that really is important. So switching gears a little bit, and again, afterwards, if anybody wants to talk to me about polystyrene, I'd love to go deep on that, but we're going to change topics. All of us who follow your city council meetings closely know that housing affordability and homelessness are 2 issues that are basically every single council meeting. You're dealing with that as public comment. There's a really, you know, there's a real disparity. And for example, you know, I mean, you're hearing about it from the state, you know, on every level. I know an economist just presented to the Bay Area Caucus of State Legislators about the disparity in the benefits to wealthy homeowners versus renters. You know, it's a real challenge. How have these issues of affordability and homelessness affected Concord, and what are you doing to address them?
Well, these are issues that the whole city council is taking very seriously. I'm personally very concerned about them. Most recently, you know, you're right. We've been hearing from people coming to city council for a while now, and they're very concerned about rents and habitability. And so I formed an ad hoc committee as the mayor. I'm serving on that along with Councilmember Aliano, who has the largest number of apartments in the Monument District that he represents. We've just gotten to work on this ad hoc committee, and we're really committed to working with the tenants, advocates, and renter representatives, as well as the landlord and property owners, to find a fair and balanced solution to address this here in Concord. And we're working. We put it to an ad hoc committee so that we could work at an accelerated pace and try to bring both parties together and find a solution to help address this concern. But I also want to kind of take it out a little bit and share with you that, Concord has been trying to work on affordability before it became a buzzword. And I don't have enough time to go into this in great detail today, but, we really are trying to roll out this 7 or 8 prong approach. Well, not roll out. We've actually been implementing these approaches for a number of years. I wrote an article in the Concord Pioneer back in my January column. If you want to Google it, it talks about all the different approaches, everything from providing zero-cost loans to seniors to help them rehabilitate their homes and stay in their homes and age in place, to a home match program so that seniors with surplus property or surplus space, I should say, can welcome a person to share their home, to cutting red tape on ADUs, to something that I'm particularly proud of, which is related to our affordable housing dollars. And every city, Kristin, has them, but I don't know of another city around that is trying to do what Concord's trying to do, where we're trying to leverage some of those dollars and work with an affordable housing provider and build a brand new 100% affordable project. And so, we're really trying to walk the walk, and hopefully that project, there aren't a lot of housing projects for seniors because there aren't funds for that anymore, so specifically targeted for seniors. So we're hoping that we'll be able to create housing for seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, people with HIV/AIDS through this initiative. So I do want you to know that we're working very hard on this. Now, homelessness is related, but it's also a separate issue in that I think whenever we talk about the homeless, we're talking about people that are living on the street, people with mental illness, addiction. And so just for people to understand, because I hear from the business community, why do I see a lot of homeless people in Concord? Well, just for people's understanding, I didn't realize until this past year that throughout the county, we have 19 cities, but only 2 cities in Contra Costa have a full-fledged homeless shelter that serves everybody. And one of those 2 shelters is located here in Concord. Also, we're the biggest city in the county. We're centralized, so often the county decides that that's where services for the homeless should be placed for convenience to be able to meet those needs. So right away, you're going to see more homeless people when you have a shelter and services. Now, with that said, we're working very hard to partner with surrounding communities. We have our CORE program where we partner with the city of Walnut Creek, and we have officers go out into homeless shelters 20 hours a week trying to get people out of the streets and under the bridges and into shelter and services. We also have been working hard encouraging the city of Antioch because they have identified a piece of property to build a shelter in East County. And again, right now what's happening in Concord is we're serving not just the homeless in Central County, but also the homeless from East County. And so we're trying to encourage our partners so that it's fair and balanced to shelter in East, Central, and West County. I also want to let people know, though, that whenever there are one-time funds that are available, we go after them. And so Senator Glazer has made available some funding, and so we have declared a shelter emergency as a city council. And if we receive those funds, we're going to use those to build kennels and storage units and also keep the shelter open 7 days a week. It's only open 6 days. But the reason I mention kennels and storage is when our CORE officers go out and they interact with people who are homeless, there are many that say, hey, I'd come in off the street, but
they won't take my pet.
Yeah, I have my dog, or you know what, I have my worldly possessions and I don't trust anybody else with them. So I just want people to know that Concord is committed, has been and continues to be committed to do our part to address the homeless and affordable housing crisis.
Well, that was an all of the above kind of answer. So I'm just sort of taking that in. No, thank you. That's multi-pronged, and that was terrific. So shifting gears yet again, Concord has an extraordinary opportunity, as you know, with the development of the former Naval Weapons Station site. Not very many cities have the opportunity to grow. Like Concord will grow when the plan is built out. 5,000 acre site. talk about your vision for this development and the city's vision, and what is important for this audience to know about how to help make this vision a reality. Full disclosure, I often come to the podium at city council meetings and talk about, let's move this forward. So what can we do, and what's the vision?
Sure. So, we could dedicate another 20 to 25 minutes just to talk about this. So maybe this could be a program for the East Bay Leadership Council at some point in time. Maybe some members would be interested in that. But just high level, we're still committed to the community vision that was put in place through a whole community advisory committee process, and it's getting to be almost a decade ago now. This has been going on for a long time, as you well know. So again, we're committed to building a smart city of the future that is sustainable, that helps Concord grow into the job center that it was identified as becoming as far back as the 90s, as a place where we have people of all affordability levels living, where we have an amazing new East Bay Regional Park, where we have a youth tournament sports complex, and where we have a public institution of higher learning. So all of these things we are still very much committed to, and I can tell you the city council, city staff, I know we have folks from Lennar Five Point here today. Everyone's working very hard to bring this vision to fruition. And so our goal is to have a plan come back before the city council for consideration in March of 2020. And so there's going to be lots of opportunities for the public to still provide input, including the business community, because we need to understand what you're looking for. If we want this to become a job center, then we need to hear from the business community. If people want more detail, I'm going to talk about 3 components of the project that I think are probably of the most interest to the public today, and then there'll be more opportunities to hear more later. But the East Bay Regional Park, again, this is something that, if people want a high quality of life, and so we're going to be adding this Concord Hillside Park, or whatever it's going to be called. And this year, 2019, some of the land is finally going to be transferred over to the Parks District. And I was recently appointed by the Mayor's Conference to serve on an East Bay Regional Parks District Parks Advisory Committee. So I'll have the chance to be even more engaged on the planning for that park, which I'm looking forward to. Regarding the campus district, so this city council set aside 120 acres within the plan for the Naval Weapons Station. And again, this is a big plan. 120 acres isn't that much, but it's a start, and it's within walking distance of BART. And we know that we really need higher education opportunities, public higher education opportunities, more of those here. So I've been spearheading a campus visioning process with the assistance of city staff and a 16-member Blue Ribbon Committee, and we're right at the halfway point. And what's really interesting is we're learning a lot from each other, because we have people from UC, CSU, Cal Poly, the healthcare industry, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Mount Diablo Unified. I mean, the community college district. It's a really diverse group of people, labor as well. And so we're finding out that there are actually some areas of real interest around cybersecurity and around even construction and related to this new industry of mass timber. So we're still in the exploratory phase, but I would encourage the public and the business community to stay engaged with us. And on Tuesday night, if you really want to learn more, we're going to be having at our city council meeting an update on both this campus visioning process as well as the sports tournament complex and how that's moving forward. So again, I would just say, please stay engaged, please provide your input, please come down to City Hall like you've been doing, Kristin, and letting us know what the business community is looking for, so we can really ensure that the world-class vision that the Community Advisory Committee envisioned comes to fruition.
That's great. I've gotten the high sign that we're down to the final question. So I'm sure the mayor will be around to answer questions and afterward. But
off the stage, though.
Off the stage. So I always talk about how it takes courage to run for office, and I really admire anyone who puts their hand up. And there are so many elected officials here today. And you have obviously dedicated a lot of time to Concord, even before you were in elected office. What makes you hopeful and most excited about the year ahead as mayor?
Well, you're right. I have spent a lot of time dedicated to this Concord community because I love Concord. And this was the place my husband Justin and I chose to move whenever we got married. We wanted to put down roots. And it was one of the best choices I've ever made in my life. And I'm really hopeful because I'm looking around this room today and I know that the businesses and the people that live here in Concord, that work here in Concord, they make community Concord the community that it is. It's the big city with a small town feel, and I hear that over and over and over again, and it's so true. And I'm really hopeful because I'm looking out here today, and this is a lot of people, and you're here because you're already civically engaged. And you've heard us in this short period of time talk about a variety of challenges and opportunities. And so I'm hopeful whenever I see people and they come down to City Hall and they're passionate and they're there for the first time, they really want to make sure the City Council hears their issue or concern, or I'm interacting with people and they've decided to organize regular community cleanups on their own, and they purchase their own pickers and their own garbage bags because they want their part of Concord to look just a little bit better. Or some of the businesses that are in this room that have decided that this kind of civic engagement is important enough to sponsor Music and Market or our good old-fashioned 4th of July parade or other community events. And so I'm hopeful because I'm looking at this room and I'm going to put out an invitation today, and I'm hopeful that some of you are going to take that invitation. And the invitation is this: get even more engaged. We'd like to invite you to get even more involved. Consider serving on a city board, commission, or committee. And, you know, as you're thinking about this, maybe some of you are like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know anything about government. I don't know that I want to get involved. Well, then let me invite you to take a baby step. On everybody's table, I think there are flyers for the Concord Community Institute. And that institute it's a 6-week program, Kristin. And so what folks do is they learn about all of our different departments, how they work. So public works, police, you know, our budgeting process. And it really gives people a good foundation understanding why things happen in Concord the way they do. And in fact, I wish that program had been available for me when I was trying to learn more about the city. So I'd like to encourage folks to, you know, apply, participate in the Concord Community Institute, and then apply and serve on a board or commission, and eventually run for city council. And also, in terms of engagement, I'd like to invite people to come on down. I have my mayor's office hours. I have them from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on most Friday mornings down at 1950 Parkside Drive. And we're also trying to do some things that are a little more casual. So I had my first beer with the mayor last Saturday night.
Sure, it was a delicious brewed craft beer.
Yes, well, actually, I had a wonderful jalapeno cider.
Okay.
But it was very good. So I was at the Concord Tap House. We had about 20 people come, including some businesses that came and pitched some interesting ideas. So I'd like to invite people. I'm doing coffee with the mayor for those that prefer caffeine to alcohol. On February 23rd from 3 to 5 p.m. at Alpine Pastry. But again, the invitation is to get involved and get engaged, because together I am confident and hopeful that we can continue to make Concord an even better place to live, work, raise a family, and retire. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Please join me in thanking the mayor.